What up, people? Grand Rising. How you doing? This is your coach Renz. I know I'm starting 35 minutes later than I was supposed to start for today, but all is well that ends well because we are here now, and that's all that matters. Uh, Looking forward to today's live. Have our conversation. See where it goes. Going to talk about this God and how He just loves some suffering. Doing a little housekeeping real quick. Make sure everything is going the way it's supposed to go. Yes, so we're going to talk today about how this God loves suffering. It's a touchy subject today. Touchy subject. I was a little, don't know if I want to do this subject matter today because of everything that's happening here in Texas. But I said, oh, well, what the hell? Just going to do it anyway. So here we are today. I want to remind everybody, hey, go ahead and reserve your rooms now. Now, I don't want to have to, if y'all don't reserve these rooms, I'm going to have to cancel the discount at the hotels because I only got so much time before I can cancel it if we don't have enough rooms reserved. Right now, there's about 6 rooms reserved. There's about 6 rooms reserved right now, so we need to get to 11. Per the contract. We need to get to 11. We're at 6. I like getting things done early, if possible. So I look forward to meeting you guys here in San Antonio, October 31st and November 2nd. There's free food at the hotel. So go into the description of this video and sign up. Now, later on today, I will be putting out a video where the next deep dive, we're going to be doing another deep dive webinar. I'm going to talk about the Exodus story and how it is a complete fabrication. We're going to be doing that. So look for that video later on today as far as the deep dive that we're going to take and how you can participate in that webinar. Indeed. So we usually start about at the 5-minute mark. If you find me for the first time, this is Deconstructing Christianity. I am your guide, Coach Renz, and today we'll be talking about how this God just loves suffering. It seems that suffering is what it adores the most. That's the idea of this religion, is that you must be a suffering servant. You must suffer for this God. And of course, we talk about any and every other thing as well. So we still got about 2 minutes before we get started. So it's time to get the cigar rolling. I'm breathing, man. I see which one breathes in the way I want it to breathe right now. Loosen it up a little bit. Get it right. If you're brand new to the show, let me know if this is your first time visiting with us. If this is your first time. And if you're just a regular, hey, how you doing? Might piss off a few people today. It's gonna be all right. Don't we get fine? So we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, LI Primary, and we are going live right now on the Tickety Talk as well. It's been acting okay. I know I swore it off for a while, but it's been acting all right. So I'm gonna let it live in its format. See how well it works. All right. Morpheus, this is the La Angelina. My wife hand rolls cigars. Welcome to the show, Clay, for the first time. Great. Glad to, I want to say clay and glad at the same time. Welcome to being here for the first time. Welcome to being here for the first time. I used to listen to your older channel, and then this channel came up on YouTube. I had an older channel. Hmm. I was on somebody Kevin's channel. But anyway, thank you for being here, Ben Allen. Thank you for finding us. So today we're going to talk about suffering and how this God seems to love suffering. And I'm going to start out with a very basic thought. I know this is a very basic thought. This is the type of thought process that I would tell somebody to think deeper. But we're going to start out with a basic thought. All right. So I want y'all to, I live in San Antonio, Texas. If you watch any news over the weekend, then you know that many areas, in many places in this area and north and west of this area, receive tremendous amount of flooding. One of the interesting things about the flooding that's happened is that about 2-3 months ago, my wife and I took a ride out into West Central Texas, about an hour, 2 hours away from here, about an hour or so, yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours. And on that ride, we passed by this place, this youth camp, right? We didn't quite know what it was because we saw all these cars going there, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a river that goes through it, and we thought that it was a park. And so we decided we was going to roll out into that park and just see what was going on. But as we went out into the park, we happened to see and notice that it really wasn't a camp for a park, just a regular park or a camp. That this was a youth camp. And with all due respect to the people who've been damaged and are suffering or lost, and those who've lost their lives to this recent flooding over the weekend, I found it quite interesting as well as unnerving that people are believing in this God wholeheartedly. They believe in the Jesus God. They believe in the God of the Bible. Strong belief in this God. So why is it that 24 children are still missing, flooded out, and some are, not unalived, as we have to say on these social media accounts nowadays? You think the algorithm would even know that word by now? But all these people believe in this God, the whole camp full of children, teenagers. When we drove by there, we think that it was prom or something like that. You got this whole camp. And all of them, this river, this flood, which we all know, those of us who have deconstructed just understand that this is just a naturally occurring event. That these lands were flooding before humans ever lived there, right? On TikTok, Shud said that sometimes it takes the suffering of others to show the evils of this world and our leaders. How does you building a compound next to a river in an area where you know that if there's ever any heavy rains, the river is going to flood and overflow, and then you put a children's camp, a teen camp there? That has nothing to do with God needing to show some suffering so you can see the evils of the world leaders. Now, I know people have been and I'm an independent, so let me be clear, I'm an independent. I know people have been trying to blame the president, their president, for taking money from the National Weather Department and because of that, they didn't know how big the flooding was going to be. And I've seen the guy, the commissioner for Kerrville, saying they were unaware the rains was going to be as heavy as the rains were. What does any of that matter to show the evils of the world leaders today, or the evils of the world? The suffering happened because these people built a camp in an area where if this river ever receives too much water, it's going to flood, and they did not build in respect of that. They did not build to that the land could support it. They did not build the cabins up on hills. The area out there is very flat. So these people built these things in the wrong place. It's just like, why y'all live in New Orleans? Why y'all live in New Orleans? Why y'all live in some of these Caribbean islands? We were going to move to Puerto Rico, but then we was like, hell no. Unless you got to maintain a get out of town budget. You know, my one of my friends, Brandon, wants me and Felipe to move to San Diego. What the hell am I moving to California for? Y'all got earthquakes, mudslides, fires. You got all this stuff that happens on a recurring theme. I'm not moving there. I got better judgment than that. But this is one of the reasons why we moved to San Antonio, because it has the least amount of natural disasters for any major to mid-sized city. The least amount of types of natural disasters. But why didn't God protect the Christian youth camp? I understand Shud. Now, Shud has the right idea. Lack of architecture education, or people who built the projects just don't care about minority lives. Huh? Okay, you lost me on that last part. I understand that in certain situations, but what I was talking about, that doesn't fit. This is a church youth camp. And it's a oh man, I forgot the name of the dang on church youth camp. I'm sure my wife is going to post it somewhere soon on one of the Facebook, YouTube, or on TikTok. But what if you believe in this God, and this God is supposed to be saving you, and you built this youth camp, and this youth camp is about getting you connected, and your Bible says that, teach them when they're young so that they won't stray. So it's all dedicated to teaching these children to stay within, believe in this God. And then here comes the flood. I'm sure that they were praying. The river rose 30 feet in the middle of the night. I'm sure that there were prayers before they went to bed. Y'all know the prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. But if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I'm sure that they were doing some praying. Mystic. Yes, the church is Mystic. It's the campground is called Mystic Campgrounds or something like that. She just wrote Mystic. She didn't say Mystic what. But I'm sure there was some praying going on. And I'm not trying to make fun of, make light, not fun, make light of the loss of life, loss of property, people being missing, all that sort of thing. But where was this God? If you saw the young lady's video that's been going pretty viral, and I did a video with it and attached some additional information, Mother Teresa was rolling in suffering. Believe that you should all be suffering. That suffering was the way so that man can appreciate God, and she believed in suffering. That people should suffer so that people would realize how important God is to their life and how they should stay connected with God. Well, with the God of this Bible. But why all of? But does this? So let me ask you guys a question around the fact: does this God believe in suffering? Is suffering this way of life? Before you and I let anybody on the show, you got to make a comment so that I can know what you're aiming to discuss. Because just arbitrary invitations, requests, they just get ignored. So, does this God love suffering? So, the brat says that this God does. God don't love suffering. Really, really, He doesn't love suffering. It's interesting. Yeah, He likes to let people suffer. Yeah. The, the overwhelming majority of the world, there's more people in this world suffering than there are people enjoying life. There's more uh, people who are impoverished, suffering every day. You got hospitals built that are filled with children with cancers. Let's just look at the children, just children. The numbers of children starving, the numbers of children with terminal diseases. This guy just let a whole teen camp get flooded, and 24 young adults and children are missing or dead. When this guy was trying to make his bones about, in Egypt, uh, he could have just came and made the waters of the river red. I mean, run red. But no, he turned it to blood. He allowed for which caused all the frogs. Which okay, so let's look at that first. And I don't want to get too deep in this into this example because I'm going to do a long form survey seminar on this one. All right. So this guy goes to Egypt, sends Moses to Egypt. He turns all the waters in Egypt into blood. Egypt is a desert. That means that people are living in a desert with nothing to drink. Now, even though it has this bullshit about digging along the sides of the river in order to get water, we know that that is insane and an improbability, and it shows a contradiction in the fact that he said he turned all the water into blood. Plus, Pharaoh and his people got some water in a pot, and they turned that into blood as well. Where did they get that? If all the water, even that in the pots, would turn to blood. But anyway, that would have created thirst all over Egypt in the desert, suffering. Then the frogs come out and the flies come out, and this. I don't know if you've ever been in a frog fly infested area. I've been into a refugee camp that was infested with flies. People are suffering. It's suffering. This God is creating all of this. But he goes on, he kills all the animals twice. He gives the people boils. He does all these things. But mind you, before Moses ever went to Egypt, this guy said that he was going to harden Pharaoh's heart to make sure that Pharaoh says no. So this guy wanted to do all the stuff that he desired to do to create all the suffering, all the way down to killing the firstborn in Egypt. This guy desired to do all of that because not only did he say that he was going to harden Pharaoh's heart, then he hardens Pharaoh's heart, not once, but twice, gave him a double down dose of hardening of the heart. Tell me again how this guy does not love suffering when this God purposely set everything in motion so that he can, according to this lie of a story, do all that and create all that suffering through Egypt. And this says that this stuff was happening all throughout the lands of Egypt. So if you were not in the area that it was happening in, wherever Moses was, which should have been somewhere around Cairo, according to this story, if they were dealing with the people up in Goshen, then if you're way down there in Karnak, you have no idea what's going on. Your firstborn dying, you got boils, you got all kind of stuff going on. So you can't claim that he was doing it because he wanted the Egyptians to know that he was God, that he was just so all powerful. No, he loved suffering. He wanted to go down there and do some stuff and test some stuff up and let these people suffer. And then he just left. Did the Egyptians convert over? There's no big conversion of the Egyptians. Before you come on TikTok, I need you to make a comment because people come on here thinking they're doing that little challenge stuff, and I am not dealing with that. More than just hello. Can I join? What you want to talk about there? Arts. What up, Rav? How you doing? Rupert, you say that I just don't get it, but yet you provide no information as to what I don't get. Tell me what we don't get, Rupert. All right. We're gonna let Art come on. All right. But he didn't come on yet. All right, you're live.
Show me your mouth. I want to eat your ass.
All right. Okay. Art thought they was making a joke. They said some unintelligible things. So, yeah. It's funny how people try to come on and tell a joke or say something stupid, but then what they say, they're laughing through it. So you can't even hear what was said. So then it falls on its face. Andy says, can Christians and atheists meet in the middle? There is no middle. Honestly, that is a very good question, Andy. Can Christians and atheists meet in the middle? On certain subject matters, it may be a possibility. But on the idea of, say, what the Moses story, no, Christians and atheists can't meet in the middle. On the proof of the existence of a God, no, can't meet in the middle. Some areas of morality, you can meet in the middle. Is murder good or bad? No, murder's bad, so we don't do the murder. Is stealing good or bad? No, stealing is bad. We don't do the stealing. So we can meet in the middle on certain things of morality, but when it comes to historicity, when it comes to it's either is or is not. When it comes to the existence, is or is not. Other than that, no, there is no meeting in the middle. And on a subject matter like this guy loves suffering, there still is no middle ground to meet on because this God is supposed to be a good God, right? He's supposed to be a loving God. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that everybody gets what they wish and everything goes the way they want it to go. All right, I'll let you come on, and all you did was laugh and giggle. So now they let you come on. I mean, this suffering. You don't get everything that you want, but this guy doesn't show up in any form of protection of his people. There's always cause and effect. Anytime somebody says, oh, God saved me from a car accident, God didn't save you from a car accident. You were traveling at a certain speed, at a certain angle. You either hit somebody or they hit you at a certain angle. And because of that, the laws of physics prevented you from dying. No, you cannot prove there's no God in this. It's science in this. So there is no meet in the middle. And then, like Will is saying, These people believe in demons and devils and all that kind of stuff. You can't meet in the middle with somebody who believes that there's some things outside myself and evil creatures lurking about, and they're going to try to do something to me. So no, there's no meet in the middle. I'm gonna try this. This is one of the reasons why I stopped doing TikTok, because people try to bring them on. They act crazy.
Yo,
What up,
how you
young?
doing?
What's your name?
Your girlfriend favorite Teddy? It's kind of catchy. But okay, I've been following your content, man, for a long time, man, long time. And man, when I tell you, I have conversations with people like this all the time, man. I work with people every day. And I tell people, I said, I did not get my intelligence, man, until I really let go of this religious stuff, man. Because when you really talk to people, OG, it's like they make up excuses to be terrible people. In the name of God and the things I've been through. Oh, you just mentally messed up and you're using your trauma as an excuse to be a bad person. Oh, no, but God. So you're telling me you got to go through trials and tribulations voluntarily to get to where you want to get to. And it's like everything in there. Oh, just have faith. No, just tell me what's going on so I can move accordingly. It's like you're not lying. Everything that you're saying there is so 100. And it's like they don't connect to no source. People don't use their intuition no more. And it's like, and I know you OGC, you know how people are. It's just how I am. And you just gotta accept me for what I am. Because the Bible said I can be bowed and some other stuff. I'm like, man, look, bro, that's a lot. I don't have to accept you for who you are. And 9 out of 10, the most intelligent people who don't follow the rules that y'all created are the most intelligent ones. Look at history. Yeah, the highly born in the church, guess what? It's a certain level that they reach, and then they just stop going. They just stop right there. But the most intelligent one, like us, the ones who break the barriers, they don't care. They're doing exactly what needs to be done. So everything you're saying is so correct, man. I wish people will understand what you're saying. There's nothing. My mom's a listen out of y'all. I really think my mom did spiritual stuff too, but she won't tell me. Oh, she would not tell me. So when I was young, my mom said something very dope. My mom said, "Ain't nothing coming after you to get you." She said, "What have you done in your life for you to think that something was coming after you?" So as I grew older and I started reading, I started reminiscing about what she said, right? OG, the only person that was created to destroy me was me. Because I created the motherfucker. Yep. Nobody else created it. Me. I sat and created my own entities to destroy me. Because if I ain't know nothing about no entities in the beginning, who became to destroy me? Nobody. So you're right, OG, I'm telling you. You're absolutely correct, man. We are our first enemy, bro. Oh my God. Yeah. Man. When I sat and followed your content for so long, man, I'm telling you.
No, I appreciate that, and I agree with you. And it's like people wear their suffering like a badge, because this Bible has taught them to suffer. That God has taken them through seasons, or we've been some chosen group that's been enslaved for 400 years, or some other. There's always some level of taking on some yoke that they feel like that they have to have in order for them to have some type of piety. But then they constantly are allowing themselves to hold themselves back. And it's just simply because they're too lazy to change their life, too lazy to change who they are.
Now they got a new saying out, saying that if you don't want to follow God, then we're going to ask God to give you to the devil and handle you accordingly. I said, well, y'all, if only you knew how much of voodoo that you're practicing, you probably would shut up. If y'all call so much stuff to money, y'all are actually practicing dark voodoo because you feel like you gotta conjure up something bad to get the good. Okay.
Now I haven't heard that one. I ain't heard that one. So they saying that if you don't want to follow God, then they gonna send you to the devil.
I might need to send it to you. I sent it to my friend, brother. We talk about this stuff all the time too. And I sent it to him. He said, "What?" I said, "Yes." It's a whole video lingering around this pastor. People were cheering on, they were clapping, they were like, yes, condemn them all if they're not a believer. And I'm like, what? It literally said, hey, if you don't believe in what I believe in, I'm gonna pray to God give you to the hands of the devil. So
Oh, that's what. Okay, I didn't. I must not have caught it right. Pray that God is going to give you to the hands of the devil. Yeah, I've heard that one since I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I heard that one since I was a kid. That they're going to pray that God will hand you over to the devil. And I always thought like that's the very evil thing that you would say to a person, that not for them to be delivered, but you're going to hand them over to the devil. Yeah, that's evil. That is, and you're right. That I didn't put it in the context of that being a practice of some other type of arcane magic, but that's what it would be.
Yeah, it would be like you got to think about it. Like, and I know you know, but for me to just look at you, you got to think. For me to look at you and say, well, if you don't believe in what I believe in, I'm gonna condemn you. Like, you don't even know me as a character. You just know me from my belief system. And truth be told, that's a real CULT. Because if you're telling me since I don't believe in what you believe in, I'm not worthy of being loved as a person, that says a lot about who you are.
Yeah, it shows tremendous about who you are.
Yeah. There is no way you're going to tell me, in order for me to accept you as a person or as someone that I can really respect as a human being, then you got to be what I want you to be. Because if not, you're not worthy of being in my space. That sounds like you're trying to control me, make me into who you want me to be, just so you can be comfortable controlling my thoughts.
And it is a controlling mechanism, and what they want is not only is controlling, but not only is it controlling, it's also a lack of strength in their own belief, because they need other people to actually believe in what they believe in order for them to feel confident and stronger in their belief. You see, because then the average human mind is going to follow one of 3 or 4 particular large groups.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as my group is large enough, I can follow it. So I need other people to stay connected with it and more people to come into it so that I can justify me being here, because it's the large group. We're all following this idea. I don't want to be an outlier. I don't want to be somebody that thinks differently, because then I might get chastised, I might get ostracized, and then they also may feel like they're wrong.
Do you also think that that's where the saying come from, with don't question God? But they really saying don't question me too much because I may not know the answer?
I can't say I know where that saying comes from, but I can see it as people saying you can't question God because God is so powerful and God is your creator. So who are you to question that God? It's like the pot can't question the pot maker.
Yeah.
But I think that's asinine, because as a sentient being, I can certainly question anything as I will. If you don't feed, you can be the master of a dog, but if you don't feed that dog gonna question your love towards, and then it's gonna bite the hell out of you.
Thanks. My thing about it that I never understood about people is, and this is something real. You actually are meant to question everything. Nothing is supposed to be so idealistic that you just go right into it without understanding it. Just like they say, oh, you should take a pledge. I say, yeah, you should. Because if you don't know what you're taking yourself into, you can't just walk into it blindly. There's no such thing as walking into something with just faith in mind.
Mm-hmm.
No, you gotta read that for context and try to figure out what's being said and what's being done and what's going on. Because you might be just cool, so we'll just have faith and wait. No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not. I'm 32, no kids, and I always tell people, if you have the time to do it, go do it. Do not sit up here and say, well, just wait your turn. No, go make it your turn. Please do. Because what you gonna tell your kids? Just wait it out. No, you cannot just wait it out. I feel like since I have left religion, man, some time ago, it's been over about 8 years now. I said this a long time ago, and people been looking at me like I'm so crazy, man. I was like, yeah, nobody's coming to save y'all, so please stop waiting on somebody's phone. Oh, you said I'm crazy. Jesus gonna come back. This and that. I said, so y'all really want a man who's not of your descent, nor your belief system, nor of your skin tone to come back and take you somewhere that you've never been before, put you somewhere that you've never been before, and now you have no regulation of where you went. Doesn't that sound like what they did with us, Christopher Columbus? Like, y'all not thinking about that? Like, that sounds exactly like something from Christopher Columbus, bro. Like, taking you somewhere you've never been, introduce you to some things that you never saw before, and say, hey, this is your new home. That sounds exactly it. That sounds exactly like that. It colonized your thinking. I'm telling you, it colonized your thinking skills. Everyone that I've been with is super religious. When I say I've been with one young lady, she was talking about my relationships. You know, she told me, she said, I love God, I love Sky Daddy. I said, who? She said, yeah, this we call God Sky Daddy now. You got to get with the times. I said, oh, okay, keep going. She kept going. And you know, she said at the end of her sentence, I really wish I was a witch and a warlock because I love the things that they wear and I love how they go through life. And I said, well, why won't you practice it? She said, oh, God gonna get me. And God gonna take me through some things, so I won't do it. I said, I'm sorry, every day y'all sound just like the good old West system.
Well, that's one of the interesting. It's interesting you had mentioned that she wished she was a witch or a warlock, because so when I was coming up, you didn't see people with doing sage, wrapping sage, doing sage around their house, having crystals around their house. There might have been a one or two persons in some far-flung neighborhood, but like I grew up in Atlanta, in Marietta specifically, and no one, nobody had sage, nobody had all this kind of stuff, and nobody was really burning incense other than people from the 70s, when they had their little parties or just for the house, the smell for the house. Now you got Christians walking around with crystals, Christians walking around doing sage, they doing magic, but they still are believing in this God. And then they're finding areas in the Bible that would facilitate them being able to use it. Oh, they brought frankincense and myrrh. Oh, Esther fumigated her face and all these other sorts of things. They really want to, this religion has constantly changed and moved over to try to fit into whatever cultural modern day society is going on. And that young lady saying that is kind of an example of how she's caught in between, that they know. 10 years ago I said that pastors better start talking about energy or they're going to lose their congregant. So they know that this stuff that the Bible stuff is a bunch of bullshit, but they still want to hold on to it like a crutch. So they try to innovate ways in order for them to be able to continue. She's talking about Sky Daddy is the new term.
Yeah, she said Sky Daddy, and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna be real with you. If you even look back at movies now, that's what they used to call the master. What daddy? They used to say daddy, big daddy. Mm-hmm. They used to call him that. So when I be talking, though I say like people, I don't know, some things I just don't trust. I ain't got nothing to give nobody, sexual. I don't give a fuck about that. I really look at your character as a person because some of these folks are weird, OG. Like, they're just plain out weird. And you can tell how weird they are just from casual conversation. There is no way that you can use your belief system to be a fucked up person. And you feel like as long as you believe in this thing here, then you will not have to take accountability for anything that you do. It's just like lusting and having a big old ass. Oh, she thick as hell. Hey, you see about her reading and comprehension skills. Mm-hmm. Oh, you think too much about it. No. That's the problem. You don't think too much about it. We are conditioned, and I know you know it too. A lot of us just conditioned to accept what's in front of us and leave it alone when you really need to analyze everything. Everything needs to be an analyzation. Nothing should just be I see what happened there, I'm gonna leave it alone. No, you need to analyze everything because seeing ain't always believing. Sometimes, a lot of times, seeing is we probably need to try to figure out what's going on with it.
I'm with you. But let me let some other people up real quick.
All right, thank you, OG, man, for having me.
All right, no problem. I don't know what order these go up in, but Grand Lodge, how you doing?
Hey, you probably don't remember me. It's been a while.
Yeah, I stopped doing lives on TikTok and just was doing them on Facebook and YouTube because TikTok was getting on my nerves.
No, I met you actually on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. There's an echo.
Yeah, do you still hear an echo?
No, not when you talk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
No,
Go ahead. I saw in the comments you were saying that we love complaining, we love death. We don't love, instead of loving life and loving Jesus. I don't see how Jesus is life. Oh, I remember you.
Hope you're having a blessed one.
I'm having a great day.
No, I'm glad to hear that. That's just crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I was just scrolling on TikTok and then I saw it, and I was like, I gotta pop on and see if you invite me up.
Of course.
But I hope all is well though with you though.
Everything's great. Everything's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
How are you and the family?
Doing great at the moment. I'm just waiting for my girl to leave her job, and then I'm heading to the house. Got a few things to take care of. My daughters and them left the house a mess, so dad duty.
You should have came on Facebook. They would have loved to have seen you.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you should have been on. If for all the people on YouTube and Facebook, if y'all could see this person, this young man, some of y'all will remember. The long time people will remember and know who this is. All right, so what you got, man? What you got?
Both accounts right now?
Actually, all three. Yeah, Facebook, YouTube, and then TikTok over here.
But so since the last time we talked, how do you feel about what's going on in the world? If I could ask.
How do I feel about what's going on in the world? Two hands. On one hand, I see the world as continuing the same cycle that the world has been doing for all of recorded history that we know about. So there's nothing new under the sun, as the saying goes. On the other hand, I am loving the fact that more and more people are walking away from all religions. That we haven't seen this level in recorded history of people stepping away from all religions, because there's exodus that is happening from each religion in the world. So I'm loving that part. But is there something specific about the world that you mean?
No. Just in general, really. But honestly, I agree with you. I like that in a way too, because as Christians, we get to weave out those who are tares, and those who actually really want to stay in the church, they can stay. You know, those who don't really want to be there, they don't have to be there anymore, because now they get the opportunity to accept universalism, or they get to accept, whatever they want to accept.
I've never heard somebody who believed in church. Usually, I thought it was the Great Commission is for you to go out and teach everybody, and that God wants everyone, desires to have everyone to be in his fold. And then if there's one sheep that walk away from the 99, from the 100, then the shepherd goes to get that one sheep. Isn't that the Jesus shepherd story?
Yes, sir, it is. But the thing is, though, the Bible tells us to not cast pearls as swine. So, there are people who are accepting and there are people who are not accepting of it. And that's just something we all as Christians, not you, but just me, any other Christian has to accept.
Okay, so, but that saying actually is sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I don't want to coerce nobody. So I'm just at the point where, if you accept, you accept, you don't, whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
I think all Christians should be like that.
Now, the saying, don't cast pearls before swine. That saying is older than the Bible. It's not a Bible original. So other religions, other societies, and philosophical thoughts were already teaching that you don't cast your pearls before swine, right? So their thought process would have been the same as though the Jewish people, the Israelites before Jesus, would have thought that for those Jews who was walking away from Judaism, that good, they're swine. And even before then, the Canaanites would have said that to those who became Israelites. Go on, keep worshiping Yahweh. You're swine. We worship El. And but that is a very common saying, though, that saying was before any of those people. But still, as a Christian, what about the fact of Jesus was supposed to? He tells the story of the guy 100 sheep, one strays, and he goes and get the stray. But you're saying good riddance. Don't you find that to be contradictory to the story that Jesus was, the parable that Jesus put out?
Mm-hmm. Because the shepherd is Jesus. Jesus is coming back to try to save. But then also, Jesus did realize, and he even stated that, some are going to depart from the faith. Not everyone's going to stick around or want to stay around. So I'm under the impression that, not everyone's going to want to be in the faith. I have cousins that agree with stuff that you agree with. And I try to change their mind all the time. And they never budge. So, it gets to the point where, even as a Christian, you got to understand your limit.
I mean, and here's the thing. You could teach a sermon from the perspective that you are supposed to go out and keep consistently ministering to these people. And you can teach a sermon of no. Some people, just like you said, they're going to be hard of heart, hard of hearing, straddling the fence, lukewarm, great falling away. You can teach a lesson from either side of the fence based on the Bible. Isn't that problematic when it doesn't have one thought when it comes to that, one consistent thought?
When you say both sides, are you saying like good, like positive and negative?
You can teach that God, you are supposed to consistently and continuously try to bring people into the faith and keep people into the faith. Or you can teach that the opposite of that. Once somebody walks away from it, let them go. You see what I'm saying? I can teach either way. I can pick verses of the Bible to teach either way.
I wouldn't say that's conflicting, because for me personally, I try to go out and talk to as many people as possible. But let's say someone is on a corner, or if I'm on a corner and someone's not accepting of it, I wouldn't keep trying to preach to that person, because the Bible also says you don't want to harden someone's heart by, like pushing it on them. I'm like, you got kids. Like, my daughter's in the very young, you know that. Like, I'll be like, hey, baby girl, come on, let's go. Like, and then sometimes I'll give them like a little scoop, like with my hand. You don't want to do that as a Christian. And that's not what I want to do, because I don't want someone to feel like, hey, are you forcing me? Like, why do you keep, bashing this over my head like a, unalive force?
Right.
So I feel like it gets to the point where you have to have discernment to know, like, when to pull the plug and just when to give someone a break.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and that is appreciated. That you won't try to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, right? That's appreciated. I'm just saying that I can teach either way from the Bible. From the Bible, I can give a sermon saying that no, you got somebody, they don't believe in Jesus or they walked away, then you need to continuously minister to them. You need to keep bringing that for them. You need to go pray with them. You need to try to bring them back into the fold, just like when Jesus went off, left the 99 to go get the one sheep, that none shall depart from the hand of God. I can preach that sermon. But I can also preach that, Jesus is going to come and there will be those that have done miracles in his name, but he will not know them. that there's going to be a great falling away because they will fall under the spell of the Antichrist. And, I can teach that as well. Or Jesus went and when he released the legion of demons out of the man chained to the rock, the people told Jesus, we appreciate you, but go on about your business. And he just left. Jesus didn't try to push himself on those people. He just left. And when he went home, the people didn't want to hear nothing that Jesus was talking about. It was like the prophet can't come back to his own home. And so Jesus just left them. Jesus didn't try to force himself on people. So I can teach. You see, I can teach either way. That's what I'm saying. That, and to me, that is conflicting. It's pick a lane. Either you consistently and continuously try to keep the people, you consistently and continuously preach to people, or if people don't want to accept it, you let them go. You leave them alone. You say, okay, it's not for you. And you're going about your business.
Before I get up out of here, because I don't want to take too much of your time, as a military person, how do you feel where America is? Do you feel like we're well protected, or do you think that, if stuff hits the fan, or if Houston goes wrong, do you think that we have enough infrastructure to be protected and safe from the coming conflict that could arise? I'm trying to be TikTok friendly, so that way I don't get your lives messed up.
As a military person, America, there is not one country in the world that is 100% safe. At any given time or moment, another country can invade. Successfully, not so much. America is too big. It's kind of like trying to invade China or Russia is too big. But can we be attacked and can cities get destroyed? Sure. Sure, it can happen. Depends on who's doing it. That determines the level of devastation. Yeah, so.
But no, it was nice seeing you, man. You have a blessed one, though.
It was good seeing you too. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.
Later. Facebook and YouTube, I wish y'all would. That was the young man who was always saying everything is Masonic. Back in the day, like a couple years ago, everything being Masonic, and was making videos about my videos. So y'all on Facebook and YouTube would have recognized him if he had came on Facebook and YouTube. Unlike other people who come on Facebook and YouTube, he's somebody that I don't mind having a conversation with. Oh, I forgot to put the invite onto, because we got off the subject matter so quick. Somebody did say on TikTok that the devil, Satan, is the one who creates pain and suffering. Now, we know that this is not true because the devil just simply doesn't exist, for one. We know that. The devil doesn't exist. So we're not even going to fall into that trap of believing that the devil creates pain and suffering. We also know that according to the Bible, in the Job story, the so-called Satan had to ask permission to create all the suffering that Job went through. So basically, the Satan can't do nothing without the permission of this God. So I don't know how, but that's what they want you to believe, because somebody in the New Testament, I forgot where it's written, where it talks about the devil comes to steal, kill, lie, destroy, all that nonsense. There is no Satan. And like the African proverb said, if there is no devil on the inside, then no devil on the outside can do me harm. Right? So there is no devil. We're going to let Mario come up on YouTube. I mean, yeah. Facebook.
Yo, Coach
What up, Mario?
What's good? How are you?
You, sir. You, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You remember me? We talked last Monday. We talked about collective consciousness. It was, and we talked about monkeys and just the 4-minute mile. We talked about it.
Right. I remember some of it. Yeah. But your phone, your audio went in and out for a second there.
Okay, how am I right now?
Good. Good to go.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So I actually, man, and I'll say I am someone who believes in the book. Like I believe in the Bible, I believe in the Quran, I believe in the Torah. But I think that over time I have struggled with accepting the story as historical truth and Jesus being the Christ Savior and all those things that most normal people do. But I do find there to be some power in it. So I'll say since our last conversation, I was already going down a rabbit hole a little bit, but I feel like I've got to a better place of understanding. So I kind of do want to have the conversation with you now about why I actually believe the books are true and see if we do connect anywhere.
Okay.
So I don't think they're supposed to be looked at from a historical standpoint or necessarily maybe even like I don't know if I would say theology, but I think they're like powerful books of like magic or math or science or whatever you would want to call it. And the reason I have came to think that is well, one thing that I found after we talked was that I found Isaac Newton. Have you heard about like his belief and how he clung to the Bible and all these things?
I mean, I know that Isaac Newton was a big believer in the Bible, and at the same time, he was also practicing alchemy.
Yes. So his view on the Bible was they call it Unitarian. He did not view Jesus as divine, but he did have a complex where he wanted to be like Jesus, but he viewed the Bible strictly as a book of alchemy. And when I looked into it, I ended up finding some parallels. Like there are seven steps to alchemy, which are the basically the burning of something, the separating the good from the bad, the reforming, the hardening of that, and basically the completion of transformation.
Hmm.
So that actually paralleled to God's 7 days of creating earth. That God basically there was nothing, there was basically material that could be used for anything. Let there be light. He separated the light from the darkness. He formed the days and basically ended up creating this whole ecosystem. And on the final day, he rested. So I now I've come to understand that whether it's history or not, I don't think it's important. I think that the Bible is a book about how to transform self and the kingdom of heaven, which is within, and maybe even talking about overcoming death in the form of being able to go and come as you please. What do you think about that?
Okay. Ah, so you are right that there are certain aspects of the Bible that does follow the alchemical process that follows Hermeticism. You can find it in there. I've always agreed with that, and I've said that many times before.
Okay.
So yes, I can find it, but why? Why do I need to go through all the minutia of the Bible? Why do I need to still look outside myself for an entity outside myself instead of just simply looking inside myself and
Well,
looking
yes.
at nature and dealing with nature as what we can deal with and not some spiritual, ethereal beings that cannot be proven or demonstrated? You see, alchemy at the one of the foremost things of alchemy is that in order to understand correspondence, the different levels, I have to be
Yeah.
able to observe and test and observe and test. I cannot observe and test God. I cannot observe and test Jesus. I can't observe and test spirits, holy spirits, demons. None of those things can be observed nor tested. So they can't fit into an alchemical process. So when I look at people like Isaac Newton, John Dees, all these people who came up with brilliant thoughts and ideas, then I see men who grew up in a culture where you had to believe, and they were still holding on to that belief, although they had brilliance.
Yes.
And there are some. Sorry, somebody on TikTok said you can't observe numbers or logic, but they exist. That's a valid point. Numbers and logic. But numbers
Yes.
and logic are math. We derive numbers because we are able to observe an item. If I can observe one apple and then I get another apple, I can observe that I have two apples.
Two apples, yes, 100%.
Right. I can observe logic. It is logical that if I were to stab you in your heart, you're going to die. But
Yes.
so if because logic is simply a higher degree of understanding cause and effect. So logic can be observed.
I do agree to that, but I would say logic, similar to words, has limitations. Words serve us beautifully, but some things just cannot be described or explained without an experience attached to them. And I think that logic is similar when it comes to understanding things of higher levels of creation and of higher dimensions. So it may need to be broken down in a way that I can understand, or the lower being can understand.
And I'm with you on that one. There are things like if you ask me to describe my love for my wife or my children, there's no I cannot find words. There's no
Yes.
words that could really, convey that information over to you. You would
Yes.
need to be able to feel my emotions and know my mind in order to do so.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that aspect
Or
of it.
you at least need to know real love, because how do you describe real love to someone who's never experienced it?
You can.
It's very difficult, and I think that that's similar to, if going with the idea of me personally, that I believe in a creator. I think that our creator, it would be similar to us as the creation that we cannot fully understand, but there's a blueprint left to meet us at our level. And that kind of connects to what I'm saying about the Bible. If someone has a low level of consciousness, the Bible can serve them if if their heart is in the right place. And if they have a high level of consciousness, it can also serve them in just purely creating.
Yeah. Now and I was just talking. It's funny. I always say that there is this. We talked about the universal consciousness, the ether, that you pull stuff out. Like
Yes.
there's no new thoughts, and that we know that thought is energy, and people receive it.
Right.
So, me and my wife was just talking over the weekend about how it's interesting that everybody has a mind.
Yes.
Everybody thinks, but some people are able to get things faster than other people. Some people get things in different ways. So you're right. When I read the Bible, it may vibrate one way to me. When somebody else read it, it may vibrate on a lower level.
Yes.
All they can handle is having a Jesus and
Having grace. Someone gave me grace.
yeah, and believing in it, because it throws me off that everybody can critically think, but we all don't do it at the same level. Now, I'm not saying that the Bible is a book that we should be reading, though. Don't
Right. I understand that. I
I'm saying
understand that.
that. But the fact that we all don't get things at the same level, and sometimes it takes where I might read something. I can read the Tao one time, and I understood everything from the Tao the first time I read it.
Right.
It may take
Right.
another person 10 times to read it. It may take another person 100 times to read it.
What they're like, what does that mean?
But part of that comes from the environment by which we grew up in,
Yes.
things that we were doing. I was I love spending time with my grandmother, and to do that, she spent a lot of time in the kitchen. But because of my grandfather, I couldn't sit in the kitchen with her, so I sat in the room next to the kitchen where I could see her and talk to her. But oftentimes, I would read that is what began me reading the encyclopedias.
Okay. Wow.
So I read the encyclopedia. We had that green and white encyclopedia. You're probably too young for that.
Yes. No, I know what you're talking about.
But I read that encyclopedia, that whole volume, probably about 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. So you had
So,
an understanding, a deeper understanding from a young age, because
mhm.
you basically studied understanding how to relate words to other words and how to build bridges in language.
Yeah, and not just that. Here I was at 6, 7 years old. This reading that I was doing was causing connections in my brain, causing new pathways in my brain. Most other 6 and 7 years old are outside playing. I mean, I went outside and played too, but you know what I'm saying. I was doing something different. My environment was different, and over time I've come to realize that That is why I'm different from a lot of people in my family, because I was like that.
Right.
I was in that environment. It's not that they could not have become like that. They just didn't put themselves in that environment.
So
So
I want to connect to one of the things you said earlier, actually. So you asked a great question. You said, why do I have to seek something outside of myself, or basically use the Bible to go through this transformation or alchemical step? Like, why would we need to? And I actually do agree with you on that. I don't think a person needs the Bible at all. I think that, like, it's just one of the keys. How I would look at it, it's one of the keys. But I do think it means something to believe in something higher than yourself, because I think that, um I guess I'll use one of the Jesus quotes. It says that he who exalts himself shall be humbled, and he who humbles himself shall be exalted. And I do, looking at that from energy standpoint, it just makes me think about a pendulum. If you send yourself on a high, you're going to experience a low. And if you send yourself on a low, at some point, you're going to experience any little good thing will be like a major high to you. But I don't think the Bible is the only key. I'll actually use the book The Alchemist. I think there are a lot of keys in that book that you could read that book 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and you will pick up new understandings about how to transform yourself through the mind, through the heart, through finding your true self, and really letting go of fear. I think it comes down to letting go of fear and the systemic control that we all are kind of like suppressed up under.
hmm.
But I
Now,
wanted that was a response to what you were saying earlier.
and I agree with you. And the reason that, here's the thing, and The Alchemist is a good book. The Kabbalion, I would suggest reading that one as well, because then you will, when you was talking about the pendulum swing, the law of rhythm goes
Yes,
into a deeper mindset
and I
of
and
that.
I and I still do
Because
believe in the seven hermetic principles. I'll let
okay,
you finish, but I wanted to ask you something about that because we spoke a little bit on the all in our first conversation. But I didn't. I'm sorry if I interrupted you just there.
okay, so when people when you are only when you're in a situation where the only books that you really have is your Bible, is the Bible, then fine. Utilize the Bible to elevate your consciousness. But we now are in a world where you have access to damn near every philosophy, every book. So there's no reason to read a book that has so much poison in it that veers off the map of you being able to grow yourself and becoming, a better version of yourself, and not having to depend upon some outside force, not having to believe that there's some human sacrifice that is required in order for you to achieve a higher conscious state.
Uh huh.
When people were living in a small village in whatever Mediterranean town, and they only had access to the Bible, and that was the only thing they could learn, and the government burned everything else, or heresy or outlawed everything else. Yeah, John Dee's, Isaac Newton, they also had access to other things which allowed for them to grow, but they had to keep that covered because they knew that if they were to go out and be declared a heretic, they would be their work would not be published, and they would die,
Right.
just like Galileo and Copernicus, right?
Yes.
So yeah, in that situation, fine. But in today's world, we got access to too much. We don't have the government pressure. We don't have the church pressure. So I don't see the reason to bring in that poison.
Right.
And what was your
I
question about
understand.
Paul?
About well, but connecting to what you just said, though, I actually wanted to say, connecting back to the Isaac Newton thing, he did believe the Bible to be a powerful work, or the most powerful work. And I heard something about him having a Jesus complex, like he thought he was Jesus, and that one of his greatest accomplishments to himself was dying a virgin or something like that. So I wanted to say, I think sexual energy is important, but also connecting to what you said, he couldn't come out with his belief as a Unitarian during that time, because he would have been labeled like a heretic, I guess you say. Like, he would have been basically persecuted for just believing that the Bible is a alchemical book.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that was a sign of like somewhat truth in what he was saying.
And think about what would have happened if somebody like John Dees would have been considered a heretic, right?
Yes.
That would have meant that even though him and another person came up with calculus at the same time, his was more published and move the needle faster. So think about all the scientific discoveries that we would not have had at the time frames that they occurred because his work on calculus
Yes.
was suppressed.
Right. Just because he looked at the book with a different perspective. So I guess to add to what you're saying, I do think it's also used for control, and that does make a lot of people reject the book for good reason because the book has been used for a lot of bloodshed, a lot of control from the system, even though it may be a powerful book within your hands. But I going back to what you said in the last conversation with the last guy you were talking to, you were like, um, it's kind of it's kind of a negative message that the same book can be used going this way or that way. But I actually think that connects back to if there is a creator. You know, I said in our first conversation, I don't think the creator is subject to our morality if there truly is one. The creator is just the ultimate power, force, mind, whatever you want to call it. But I think that power is power and it can be used for good or bad. A gun can be used to defend or it can be used to attack. And I think that most things that are powerful work like that. They can create or destroy and nothing can take that away from them.
And you're right about that. Everything in the universe, everything that ever will ever exist has a duality to it and can be used in that way. Because you say you studied the Quran as well, right?
Yes, I do.
So many people will point to the uh, Arab Renaissance and from the like 600s up into the 1400s that the Arab Renaissance brought about new math, new sciences,
Yes,
new hygiene,
cleanliness, hygiene.
all this stuff, new technologies, and all this sort of thing, right? But at the same time, after the around the 1500s, you had the Christian Renaissance in Europe, which
Yes.
brought about new thoughts and new technologies and all of this stuff.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, the Quran has brought about the suppression of women, the suppression of rights, the suppression of being able to live, and the suppression of economic growth through taxation of people who were not Muslim. And at the same time, Christianity, the Bible has brought about the suppression of all those exact same things, and each one of them have brought about the suppression of slavery, right? So you can look at if you cherry pick. Oh, he fell off. Oh, he must have clicked something. But if you can cherry pick any portion of time frame and find where there were intelligent Christians and new technologies, but there was also suppression. The same thing goes with Islam and every other religion, but with everything in itself. There's always a time frame that you can pick. People will say that, oh, some of the most intelligent scientists today were Christian. Yeah, but 97% of scientists are atheists today. Hold on. Yeah, you fell off.
Yeah, I did. A phone call came through. The last thing I heard was you speaking on the Islamic Renaissance and the Christian Renaissance and the things that they were bringing.
Yeah, I was just showing how you can cherry pick different time frames for each religion and every religion and find where science was pushed, new technologies, new philosophies, new thoughts,
Right.
even better societal uh, laws came into being. But at the same time, you can look at them and see the polar opposite. Each one had their time frame of slavery, of enslaving people. Each one had their time frame of suppressing
Right.
women.
The duality.
Yeah, it's the duality of it, but everything in the universe can be used that way in order to show when it's powerful and when it's not. Kind of reiterating what you
Yes.
said.
Correct.
In
Yes.
So I was just pretty much I just reiterated what you said.
Yes.
Just put it in the framework of a lot of people's arguments.
Yes. So to
About
kind of bring back my original point, I guess what I'm trying to say is I've understood that hey, the story could be true, but really it's all alchemy. These are stories of different powerful alchemists and the way that the world perceived them because they could not understand it. But these are people who believed in some higher divine being, had transformations, had some talk with divine intervention, and believed in something kind of like wholeheartedly. So whether it's a true story or not, it's like you can kind of look at the transformation of Jesus, even though I think he had a lot of good teachings. Now the Old Testament gets dark. I think those are men of war, but I think that a lot of the teachings that Jesus taught are more about compassion and being what we morally deem a good person. But I think that wasn't even his point. I think his point was to show that through the transformation and the renewing of your mind, that you can align with a much higher power than the average conscious mind believes, which is similar to like what I said, the alchemist. But I feel like with the story of Jesus, it just goes more in detail with the teachings. But I don't think it's superior to say Thoth or Hermistices, whatever his name is. I wouldn't say it's superior. I say it's in line.
Hermes.
Yeah, Hermes.
I'm with you. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Now I do think that these people, that any person would, like if John Dees was, or Isaac Newton was Muslim, that they would have came up with the same stuff.
Right.
I don't think the religion that they followed had anything to do with their intellect and their ability to grow in that mindset. Now the fact that they was practicing alchemy but think about it, they were practicing alchemy, which was separate from the Bible. They were reading the Corpus Hermeticum, right?
Yes.
They were parts of associations that encourage deeper thought.
Yes.
So it wasn't so much the Christian part of them that invigorated their consciousness and their thoughts. Now, in order, if they had the Gospel of Thomas or the secret writings of Peter and James and all those,
even Enoch, like stuff like Enoch.
Yeah, they would have had access to Enoch, but even Enoch is all right. Enoch is not all that great when it comes to alchemy and truth.
Okay, so now I guess I want to ask some questions. So to maybe try to, I know I can't take up all the time. I want to try to get my stream of consciousness to a point. So we talked about collective consciousness. We've discussed alchemy and kind of where we align up on that. Do you believe that there are higher beings? Because I kind of look at the universe like this. You can go without food for so long, you can go without water for so long, and you can go without air for so long. We know air is the shortest. And that's the one thing that I think was the hardest for us to identify. So I think that maybe the things that influence our life may be the same way, the hardest to identify. But I want to know what you think about higher beings or spirits, jinns, angels, all of that, any of it. Paranormal activity, people who pass away and their spirit stays on earth. What is your belief on the metaphysical or the non-physical?
You didn't see my video yesterday, did you?
No, I didn't. I missed it.
I know you didn't, because you wouldn't ask that question if you did. Because I answered it.
I might need to go check it out.
No, but so let me. Now, I study alchemy and I study the Hermetics. So the Hermetic laws are the universal laws. I like to reference movies. I'm gonna reference a stupid movie. It's a movie called Down Periscope.
I've never heard of that.
If you've never seen Down Periscope, it is a comedy, a military comedy with, what's the dude? Fraser Crane, the guy who plays Fraser Crane.
I like Fraser a lot, man. I like Fraser. He's
the main character. All right, so it's a dumb movie. It's funny as hell, but it's a dumb movie. But he has one line in there where his commander says, something about, are you going to recognize this from a superior officer? And he said, his response was, you're not a superior officer, just a higher ranking one.
Okay.
So for military people, that speaks volume, because what it's saying is that you are not superior because of your ranking. You just have a rank. Right? You're not better than me. You only hold weight or influence because you are at a higher rank.
But we are equally as important.
Better.
Yes.
Not because you are greater. Higher rank doesn't make you greater. So in the video yesterday, when I talked about the law of correspondence, the law of correspondence says that there are levels of consciousness. So it talks about there are levels of consciousness, there are levels of matter, that are high, and there are metal levels that are low.
Yes.
Right? We can look. I'm looking out a window right now. There is a tree. That tree has a level of consciousness that's lower than mine. I'm not better than the tree,
Right.
but the tree just has a lower level of consciousness.
Yes.
The ants, the birds, lower levels of consciousness. We can see all these, always down to an atom, to a particle. We've done experiments when a particle is observed, it reacts differently than it does when it's not being observed. So there is some level of consciousness. We may not be able to communicate with it, but there is a level of consciousness at work. So if we can look on this planet in our matter form, because the matter form is a level of matter existence, then we know that there are different levels of consciousness.
Right.
So it would stand to reason that there are higher levels of consciousness that doesn't register to us in our physical form,
Yes.
but exists at a higher level of consciousness, as well as what we would say a higher level of matter form.
Okay.
Just as we can have influence on an ant,
Yes.
the ant can have influence on us.
And the ant could never truly perceive us.
And the ant can't perceive us, but I was doing a PFT test one time, and I didn't know I was laying in an ant bed. And the way they bit the shit out of me, and the way I was sick for the next 3 days,
Yes.
ants had an influence on me.
Yes. Wow.
Even though they are a lower, we would consider them a lower consciousness and a lower life form.
There are many lower consciousness life forms that if they die, we die. If they go extinct, we go extinct.
Exactly. So there should be, I ain't gonna say maybe, there should be higher levels of existence and of matter, and there should be higher levels of existence of consciousness. Should be. The only problem is that we can't observe it and demonstrate it.
Right.
Right. People claim that they do all the time.
Yeah. So I'll ask this: how far do you think we are from, like, just as a whole, or even some of the ones of us who maybe have a little bit of an edge? How far do you think we are from our highest capability of consciousness?
There is, I don't think we are too far from it. And this is, and not our highest level, because it's an infinity thing, right? Okay. But really being at that next level, there is, did you see the video I did about mushrooms?
No, I haven't. On Monday was my first video, honestly. Last Monday was my first video.
Oh, so there's a video where I talked about mushrooms, right?
Yes.
The fact that one of the things that was discovered in many of the experiments that were done with mushrooms is that there's a network node in your brain that keeps portions of your brain from communicating with one another.
Yes, I'm aware. When you take mushrooms, it removes that. I think we may have discussed this briefly in our first conversation. We might have talked about this.
Okay. So I am not suggesting that anyone take mushrooms. Let me be very
I've had my experiences already.
But when you do, if you do, now if you microdose, you're not going to shut down the network node. But when you take 3 grams or more, the network node is shut down.
Oh, wow.
In that state of being, your mind connects to things that in any other time, not even when you're dreaming, will you connect to this level. You will have these levels of connections, these levels of awareness.
Yes.
So when
the visual aspect, even being able to see vividly things which may be in a different realm, maybe within you, but you see them clearly.
Right. So when I look at things, most things that I look at, I used to think that I was having eye issues, like eye problems, right? And went to the doctor and all that kind of stuff. I was a little afraid to go and say it, but it always seemed like there's an energy pattern or wave around every freaking item that I see, right? Yes. I thought that my eyes were just doing some double vision or something. As I got older and started understanding understanding mushrooms and things like that, and energy and frequency, I come to realize that that's all that they are. But when when some shrooms are involved, they get bigger and they take color.
Uh-huh.
Normally I can't see, people like, oh, I can see your aura and your aura color is green and all that shit. I don't see no
Yes.
damn greens and all that. But and, and maybe 1 in 10,000 person actually is seeing that. I believe 99% of the people who claim that is just saying some shit.
Right.
But there's been a few times when some shrooms are involved. There's some color around everything. Like all the energy has color, right?
Yes.
Not just on people, but on everything, because
You
everything is
you
energy.
actually see the that you see that non-physical aspect of things. You see the energy. You see the I say the spirit of the world, like they say in Alchemist,
Yeah,
but I say, you see the reflection of the spirit of the world, I think. So I do agree that in capability, I don't think we're that far from where we actually can be, because we still do have dreams. Our third eye is still active, but I feel like maybe it's not as potent as it once was. Like me, for example, kind of connecting what you said with the mushrooms, I was like a heavy smoker at one point in time, 420 heavy. And something actually pulled me to stop. And when I stopped, after about 3 days, I started having the most intense dreams of my life, like very strong dreams.
hmm,
And I looked at that as like, hey, me smoking all that time was actually shutting down my third eye. And I think that sometimes we can do that with food. We can do that with the things we take in, different forms of alcohol. Not saying that these things are all bad, but if you're not allowing your body, which is your vessel or temple, to be the cleanest, as it can possibly be, you may not pick up the same type of signs. And that's why I think things like fasting or meditation, or if you believe in prayer, can be powerful things, because they're
yeah,
kind of cleaning the mind or the body or something like that.
and you're right about that. Well, you're right about some of that.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay. 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 I'll take
in
that.
in this sense, the same studies that was done on mushrooms, they did a similar study to people who intensely meditate, and they reach those same states that people who take mushrooms.
Yes.
But you're talking about people who their levels of meditation is far beyond the little bullshit that you see most people doing.
Yes. They know how to really get into it.
Yeah,
An
they have
hour or
been doing
two.
this for years, for decades. They've
Man, I
reached.
think most people can't meditate for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you are right. And then, but when you said smoking, though, now for
Yes.
you, the stopping of the smoking, I don't know what you were smoking, how much you were smoking, and so on and so forth. But all those herbal things have, when you look at all the different religions that have been over time, and even in the ones that you have today, like in Christianity, uh, there are thoughts and theories, and some scholars believe that many of the rituals that were taken on by the priest involved marijuana, well, cannabis, involved the mad anima scatter mushrooms. So because from the time that we started with shamanism, they would take the mushrooms, and the mushrooms would because
Yes.
I
They
think
do ayahuasca,
yeah,
DMT, all of that.
yeah, the video you want to watch, I just remember the name of it. I think it's called the Stone Ape Theory. We talked
Stone
about the
Age
Stone
theory.
Ape. Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. Stone Age.
Now, I broke down on how the theory is a false theory, but as far as what I think, I forgot the guy who came up with it. But the thing about it is that the native people of America and many other places, they use cannabis in their shamanic
Their rituals.
in
Yes.
order to
Practice.
connect to the higher levels.
Yes.
So there was one theory that the Last Supper wasn't bread and water, but it was the a mushroom, the Anamescator mushroom.
I could believe something like that actually.
Yeah, there's one scholar who presents that as a theory.
Yeah, and I think that cannabis has that positive aspect. I just think that if you overuse it, you can throw yourself off balance. Like if you try to use shrooms every day, take a 3 gram or more, you might fry yourself out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe not though. Maybe not. But me, I'll say I was probably smoking over 3 grams a day.
yeah.
So I feel like my body was just I wasn't getting the true effect from it that I was supposed to get.
And that's where you have to learn your tolerance level. So like I have a very high tolerance for everything.
Yes.
Me, Like me microdosing mushrooms would be taking 1 gram. When I talked to my therapist about that, he was like, "That's not microdosing." But for me, that's microdosing.
Right. He said that's a regular dose, a
Yeah.
heavy dose, maybe.
For for me, I could have 3 shots. I can have 5 shots of liquor in 1 hour, and I will not get drunk.
Wow.
But
High
for
tolerance.
somebody else, they drunk.
Yes.
I have a high tolerance for a lot of stuff, so now I don't even play with other things.
I understand.
We're not even gonna mess with. I'm never gonna mess with like crack or no shit like that.
Hey, no sir.
But
Okay, but so to kind of connect what we were saying, you're saying you don't think we're that far from the consciousness, and you do believe that there are some beings, or there could be beings that are experiencing life at a higher consciousness that we may not be able to perceive, similar to us and ants.
yeah, according to the law of correspondence, there should be. The only thing about it is that we can't prove it.
Right.
And here's what's crazy about it. This is what's crazy about it, and that's where the running a mile under 3 minutes goes.
Uh-huh.
One of the main reasons why we haven't universally come to that higher level of consciousness is because we have a limited belief in the fact that we can't prove it. But the moment it's proven,
Yes.
the game is over. It changes. Universally, people
Right.
will be able to tap into it.
But I think I agree, but I think it's one of those things like alchemy. The truth is always going to be, like, in a way, reserved for a certain group of people who can actually handle it. Even if you gave the whole world alchemy, like you giving them Christianity, most people would practice it at a low level of consciousness, and you would have a group of people, maybe a few thousand across the world, or a few 100,000 at the most, who actually can get into the true essence of it and bring something tangible back.
Yeah, and that's how it's going to work. It's going to work actually just like that. You're going to have a very small number of people who are doing it, and that small number may exist today, may have been existing for the last few 100 years or 1,000 years. Some people try to say that was what Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, that those were people who were.
Well, I would consider someone like Kanye West an alchemist.
Okay, I'm gonna let you have that one all by your lonesome.
I'm not saying now this goes back to what I said about power. It's not good or bad. It can only be dictated by what you can tangibly bring into this world. And though I feel like he lost the way in a lot of ways, or just has unraveled, I feel like what he did within music, creating so many different patterns and lanes through one person and elevating, I do think that was somewhat of a higher source. He may have called it God. We don't really know what's on the other side. We try to identify it. I don't think if there's a God that it's the God described in the Bible. I think it's just whatever is at the highest level of consciousness, and we're all still connected to the source because we've been given a certain power.
I just think that Kanye West has some great musical talents.
Okay.
And then when he lost his mama, he lost his damn mind.
Okay.
About it. I don't think he was tapping into a higher conscious level, but he's used his platform to make people think that because it keeps him relevant.
Do you consider people like the Isaac Newtons? Do you consider them possibly alchemists?
Yeah, Isaac Newton was he practiced alchemy.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you're saying you don't really see anyone today that we can identify who's using that same essence of power.
No, not anybody who
I feel that.
And like so there are some people who think that, and you'll read this when you read the Kabbalion, it talks about how there are some people who reach those levels, but
Yes.
they refuse to display it to the world. There was this video that I saw, and you can probably find it. If you find it, it's a great video because it shows two very interesting things. One shows this man who believes that he's tapped into his chi energy so strong that he's able to light paper on fire. And
I've seen that one.
Okay, and did you see the part when they also went to a hospital in China?
Yes, and they made the tumor shrink in minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really wish that information could have went through more peer review. Because I want to believe it.
Yes.
well, let me not say believe. I want to accept it. And to a certain degree, I do accept it because I do it for myself, right? As far as when it comes to my body. As far as the lighting the paper on fire, you know, I try telekinesis every day. You know,
I don't blame you. Keep going.
I honestly, I want that. I want that. I try telekinesis every day.
Okay.
But what I do understand, and I have control. My mind has more control over my body than anything else.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why I don't get sick, it is very rare that I've gotten sick in my life. Well, in my adult life, is because the moment I feel the symptoms of some virus or bacteria that's in my body that's causing me to have a headache, cold, whatever.
Yes.
I learned to meditate my way to stop that shit. I don't get sick other than the damn sinus infection. I ain't beat that one yet.
Right.
But I beat it down to where it only happens like maybe once a year.
Okay.
But even when it does happen, it's nowhere near like it was when I was 15, 16 years old.
I understand.
So I will meditate and see my body and my mind, like whatever the issue is, I will see it in my mind fixing itself. Like if it's a virus, and I know you're gonna think I'm stupid, but you know I love movies, so movies allow me to create images better in my mind.
I agree. I'm saying.
But if I think that I got a cold or a flu or anything like that, I will see the movie Osmosis Jones happening in my body.
Oh wow.
And then because I'm a Marine, I will see it in a militaristic format. And I will see my immune system beating the shit out of whatever the virus is.
Oh, that's powerful actually.
And the symptoms go away. I don't get sick.
Yes.
Right? It just doesn't happen because I know that your mind is that powerful. This is why 70% when you do look at any study, any medical studies that are done,
yes,
the people who are given a placebo, they have to allow for 70% of the people given a placebo to have the same effects as the persons who get the real drug.
I've seen that.
Because so I know it's proven that the mind is that powerful that we can control.
So why do you kind of question or doubt us being able to come together? If me and you have mastered that within our own bodies, that we could come and possibly stand over someone else and make change within them metaphysically. What is the barrier that keeps you from accepting that? It's like you're halfway there.
The only barrier is that no one has demonstrated it to the point where it's accepted. And even though I'm trying to demonstrate it myself,
yes,
I haven't been able to demonstrate it to myself.
I understand.
You know, other than like, okay, so like this one time when I did a shroom trip. I felt the volcano, the energy of the volcano. I felt the lava flow. I felt earthquakes. And then that next morning, I looked up the places where the earthquakes and the volcanoes happen, and they happened in those places that night.
Oh, wow.
So other than that, but that was on a shroom trip.
Yes.
Not just me sitting here meditating for hours.
It was some assistance, but I actually don't necessarily think anything's wrong with that. But I think that the truth is that we can get there through meditation. And I'll say this because I know you got to get to the next caller. I'll definitely come back to talk again. But I on my birthday, my last birthday before this one, I found a natural creek in my city, like in Atlanta. And I went out there and I was actually smoking still, but I had been eating fruit, eating clean, and I hadn't been smoking as much. When I got in the water, my body started to move on its own. And when I later did research, it was basically connected to I had kind of unlocked the level of my chi. So I think that we have identified something that it is a matter of being in a certain alignment and having certain things. But I think even an alchemist does use tools. So I don't think that that's negative. I think that certain people back in the day, they might have tried to put power in their staff or in their ring or in something that they had so that when their energy was high, they could put it somewhere and stop instead of letting it dissipate.
No, I would agree. We need to see it in today's world. And actually, I'm going to try to create a philosopher's stone here, I'm gonna start the process because I do think that if you're going to be a true alchemist, you have to involve yourself in the process of alchemy
Yes.
at different levels.
Work
Whether
with the materials.
yeah, you have. That's why these people. That's why true alchemists have labs that they work with.
Yes.
Even back, back in the day, they had alchemical labs where they transmuted things from one form to another. That's
Yes.
how phosphorus. That's how we found out about phosphorus. That's how phosphorus was discovered.
Right. Exactly.
By trying to produce the philosopher's
Philosopher's
stone, he discovered phosphorus.
Yeah. Well, I'll say I'm gonna leave with this, man. I'm definitely going to continue to look into alchemy from the other side, from the Manly P. Halls and the history, the Kabbalion that you mentioned earlier. And hopefully when I come back, man, we can continue the conversation. But I think that it's important that people who believe in even the alchemical power do come together and speak words and strengthen the belief, because that's the fuel. The belief is the fuel.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
All right, I appreciate your time, Coach Renz, man. I'll be back.
All right, Mario.
Peace.
Peace. I like Mario. That's a good conversation. Next time I'm in Atlanta, I'm gonna have to see Mario. Oh, that reminds me. That reminds me. So at the end of this month, I think I'm leaving on the 30th. Yeah, on the 30th. If you live in Amarillo, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Billings, Montana, or Spokane, let me know if you live in any of those cities. That's Amarillo, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Billings, Montana, Spokane. If you live any in those cities, let me know. And that's only if you don't mind meeting up, because I'll be traveling through those cities at the end of this month and the first part of August. My brother and I are riding up to see my son in Spokane, and so we'll be passing through those cities and spending overnight in each one of those cities. So if you're in any of those cities, let me know. Amarillo, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Billings, Montana, Spokane, Washington. But yes, and I know I just said that I will be I in about I probably will start doing it in about 2 months because I need to take my body through some changes before I do it. But I'm going to attempt to create the Philosopher's Stone, and I will let you guys know how it works out. Perfect, gentlemen. You said hit me up. Are you in one of those cities? Is that what you mean? Are you in one of those cities that I just named? And don't forget to go into the description of the Facebook and YouTube video and click on the link to reserve your room at the Drury Hotel downtown San Antonio at the Plaza for our meetup October 31st through November 2nd. Free food at the hotels. Oh, when I'm in Atlanta. Okay, got you. Perfect, gentlemen. When I'm in Atlanta. Yeah, that might not be till around New Year's or something like that, or when I come next time I come to Atlanta. I know you guys have had conversations all over the place. I wasn't able to see everything that everybody was writing or talking about. We're transmitting on both Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So the TikTok people over here, YouTube and Facebook is over there. Just remember the law of equivalent exchange. Refresh my memory, Will. I mean, I can just look at the wording of it. The wording of it say that for whatever energy you give out, there's going to be in order to receive a certain amount of energy, you got to give out a certain amount of energy. which was sounds like it's part of, that's kind of like how the law of um, the law of not polarization, law of rhythm, how the law of rhythm works. That for the high, if you can swing this high, you can swing that low. So if you give out this much energy, you're going to lose that much energy. You say Hurricane told me I need to keep it secret when I discovered Philosopher's Stone because the government be popping up. Probably so. There was a forum some years ago where uh, people were trying to make the Philosopher's Stone, and as soon as about 3 or 4 people said they created it, the entire forum disappeared. But before it could disappear, the process was put out on the internet. Now back to our original conversation. Yes, was that Mitchum? Yeah, Mitchum crazy. With all the suffering in the world, I agree, saying that this God just loves suffering. There has not been a time frame in our recorded history where more people were in a state of suffering than any other state. Uh, as glorious as the Roman Empire was, more people were suffering. As glorious as the Persian Empire was, people were suffering. The Kemetic empires, the majority of people were still suffering. It doesn't matter what God people believed in. It would seem to be that the belief in God does not alleviate suffering. And that was like one of the things I wanted. That's what I wanted to eventually wrap back to, is that the belief in a God does not eliminate suffering. It may help people get through some suffering. It may give you a scapegoat to be able to justify your suffering or the suffering of others, but it doesn't eliminate suffering. And here's what's sad about it. The overwhelming majority of the suffering that happens in the world today, we can eliminate. We don't need a God to eliminate suffering. Oh, appreciate the donut, Paul. I don't know what that means, but thank you. I think it's a gift, right? Thank you for the donut. I got a donut. Ooh, there's a donut shop around the corner. There's a donut shop around the corner. Don't tell my wife. And some gummy bears. Thank you. Appreciate that. Gummy, gummy. What was that song? Wasn't there a song about he's a gummy bear? Something about a gummy bear song. Ignorance is the root of suffering. I would say greed. I understand ignorance. I'm with you on ignorance, but I would say greed. They were trying to make the Philosopher's Stone, and they didn't have to sacrifice people not on that forum. I was following the forum. I just didn't do it. I was following it. Now, I would say that if we were to, that if people gain wisdom, that would help, because see, when you gain wisdom, and you know what, Akush, we are in the same mindset, because when you gain wisdom, greed goes away. Greed diminishes. I ain't gonna say it goes away, but it diminishes greatly. Now I have a different thought process on desire. This is where I think the Buddha was off base when trying to rid yourself of desires. Uh, so, and I'm going on my relationship channel, I'm going to talk about desires over compared to wants. And the basic synopsis is this: if a person wants or needs, which creates greed, a husband or wife, then they are going to create a destructive situation. But when you only have desire for a wife or a husband, then you are desiring to add to your life and add to someone else's life. But when you need or want, then you are merely in a position to take from someone's life. So I think Buddha was off when he was talking about desire, eliminating desire. You can never eliminate desire, first of all. Even having the desire to eliminate desire is desire. So that's where I think the teachings of Buddha were off on that aspect of it. Like, if I desire world peace, I have to give in order for that to occur. I cannot take in order to gain world peace. See, dictatorship thinks that we can achieve world peace by taking from other people. So I have a different thought process on desire, but I understand what you're saying though. But greed creates hella suffering. And with wisdom, which is the polar opposite to ignorance, we can alleviate the suffering. Look at, just look at hunger. There is no reason why we should be hungry. And I'm about to give, but before I go into that, let me give, I saw Rupert say something. And it's not often that me and Rupert agree on certain things, but to a certain degree, we are going to agree on this statement, Rupert. He said, if we follow the laws and commandments and the prophets, we can eliminate suffering. Yeah, that talking text will get you, or that spell correction will get you every time. So I know that that's just spell correct or something like that. But not all your commandments. But there are some, and this is, Mario is going to like this part. There are some commandments in the Bible that would help to eliminate suffering. You know, when it talks about taking care of the orphans, taking care of the widows, when it talks about you don't harvest your entire field and leave some of your field for the poor, you know, forgiving people of all their debts in the year of Jubilee. There are certain aspects of the biblical teaching that does and would help to eliminate suffering. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, sure. But then there are some of those laws and commandments that do not eliminate suffering at all. As soon as you say, thou shalt have no other God besides me, and now you're forcing people to believe just in your God, you are creating suffering. You're creating emotional suffering, mental suffering, which we have seen in our world eventually leads to physical suffering because it creates wars, right? It creates it creates slavery and oppression. When you follow those commandments and laws, and those laws say that rape victims must marry their rapists, then you are creating suffering. So some of the laws and commandments, sure, but the overwhelming majority of them do not alleviate suffering. So we agree on to a certain level. And the 42 confessions of Ma'at, other than the ones that are about their gods, yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it. So we could eliminate a lot of it if we wanted to. Okay, I could say having many desires cause innumerable sufferings, even if fulfilled. One desire, another arises. When you fulfill another arises. And the best way to eliminate, the best way is to eliminate desire. But is that always desire, or is that want? You see, when you have desire and the desire is fulfilled, then you are fulfilled. The wanting, when you are just wanting something, then when you get it, you still find yourself in wanting of that. That's where I separate the two between desire and wanting. It's very, very thin line between want and desire. Yeah. So, like a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, I desired some ice cream. I got the ice cream. I ate the ice cream. Well, my wife got the ice cream. I ate the ice cream. I was good. I had no more desire to eat more ice cream. But when somebody just wants the ice cream, then they eat it. And then after they've finished it, they want some more. And then the next day they get some more. And the next day they get some more. And then their blood pressure go up. The cholesterol levels go up. Your body gets all jacked up. So I think there is when something is continuous and not being fulfilled, that's want. That's not desire. When it's fulfilled and you filled your desire, you're good. Now, fulfilling your desires may not always look the same for everyone. Some people will see your desire as a want, not realizing it's just a desire, and think beyond that, right? So if you have a person who desires wealth in order to give it away, in order to help humanity, help the world, them consistently and continuously accumulating wealth to help the world, that's okay, because the world will constantly have issues because of our greedy ass nature. That person will never be able to fulfill that desire, because you'll never be able to fulfill you'll never be able to conquer all the suffering in the world. Not one person won't be able to do that. It will take a collective in order to rid the world of suffering. But even in that, because some people are focused on lower vibrational thoughts and filled with want, they will always be trying to take advantage of people. You desire to eliminate all desire. Why can't desire be on the spectrum? Yeah. Too much is bad, too little is concerning, but the range depends on the person. There you go. It depends on the person. Right. Desire pushes us to achieve goals. And like, if you can't be fulfilled. Now, if you have desire mixed in with greed, so it's a very thin line of things. Now, so when we look at these, because I'm gonna keep bringing it back to these God, to this religion. When we bring it back to this God of the Bible, this God has such a wanting. He does not have a desire. He has such a wanting for people to worship him, that his wanting pushed him to the point of, all you mugs, y'all going to burn for all eternity if y'all don't worship me. If you don't love me freely, which is not freely doing it, you're going to find yourself in this situation of eternal torment, because my wanting of your love is that strong. And see, I have to. So based on that, I should have been content with being poor. I should have been content with not having food in the house every day. I should have been content with not having furniture in the house every day. I should have been content with the levels of racism that I dealt with in the 70s and 80s in Georgia. If I went by, we cannot fulfill all our desires. When the desire is not fulfilled, suffering arises. Solution is to eliminate the desire and stay content with what you have. If you're in a Western culture and you're well fed, that's easy to say. But if you're in, I forgot what it's called in Brazil, the serious impoverished hood area, I forgot what it's called, but those people should just be content. When I was growing up, the people suffering the people under apartheid should have just been content. but they had a desire for freedom. They had a desire for higher education, a desire for food, a desire to be treated fairly, but they should just remain content. See, that doesn't, that's where those ideas fall short. Rupert said, God doesn't need us. He's trying to save us from destroying ourselves. Has nothing to do with him. If God doesn't need us, then why in the hell did God create us? Thank you. I've been trying to remember, Richard. It's called a favela. Thank you. Favela. Thank you. I plan to visit that one day. But if this God didn't need us, this God wouldn't have created us. If this God was content, like Kush is saying, then this God would have never created man. What the hell you create man for? If you knew that you was going to have to take this creature and you're going to have to, billions upon billions of them, maybe trillions are going to have to burn in a lake of fire for all eternity, why would you even bother creating them if this God did not need them? This God has a lack. This God is lacking. That's why that the God of the Bible could not ever be the creator God, and is not a good God. Why does he need us exactly, Sean? Who's that? Kevin? Why does he need us to worship him? This God has needs. That's why this God is lacking. That's why this God creates suffering. In Isaiah, isn't it in Isaiah when he said he creates all the calamity, all the evil is created by this God? He is lacking. He has needs. He is wanting. He's a wantless being. This is why he is not deserving of recognition, not deserving of worship, not deserving of acknowledgement. He's not even deserving of having a name or having a book or having any person following him, because he is a child. He's a child. He's the child in the Men in Black at the end credit, where our universe is just inside of a marble. Our galaxy is inside of a marble, and he's a little kid playing marbles. This God is evil. And truth be told, is like what Sean is saying. The gods of the Bible, the gods of every religion, is created by us. We created that God. We decided what this God is. We determined this God's personality. We determined what this God likes and dislikes. Man created the rituals and the blood rituals for all these gods, or the feeding rituals for all these. Why do these guys need to be fed? All of them need to be fed. You God, you don't need to be fed. You're supposed to be, all encompassing, have it all together. Why I gotta feed you? Why I gotta bring you offerings? That good barbecue that you like so well, some fruit, some grain, some libations. Why you need to be fed? Why Abraham got to show up and wash your feet and then feed you and your two other companions? Like, the Bible God is, yes, Akush, is a intention. Is an attention whore. That's what he is. He's an attention whore. And yes, Kevin, why does this guy need money? Why does this guy need money to build bigger buildings? Need money to have more theatrical shows? Need money to buy jets? Certainly, the amount of money that these people are pulling in, that these church organizations are pulling in, if they truly believed in a God of provision, these provisions will be going out to the people to end their suffering, or at least minimize their suffering. They could even do it in such a way that it's beneficial to the organization itself. Right? You could start a bank. You can make sure that everyone in your church understands economics and provide them a loan for them to buy their own home so that they can start what creates generational wealth for most people. Uh, they can do more than just a food bank. They could have farms and have communal farms for the people. But they don't do that. No, no, give me your tithes and God's gonna magically make your stuff pour over. Now, Akush, and I hope I'm saying your name right, but that sounds a little bit like the Bible God. That sounds a little Jesus-y. That whether you love him or not, he still loves you. Now, maybe he don't have the punishments. Is there a punishment for not loving Ishwara? If I'm saying that right. Oh, I most certainly can mix. Rupert is saying you can't mix God with religion. Yes, you can. I know people are saying that you want to say that it is man and his religion and God is not part of the religion, right? But go back to your Old Testament, Rupert. Go back to your Old Testament. Which is the identification of your God in his Genesis. Okay, so Ishwar does not punish. Okay, go back to it. I want you to think about it. The whole thing of Yom Kippur is God requiring a goat sacrifice for himself and one goat that is sent to Azazel, which is just a wilderness. It become a deity later on, but just sent to Azazel. But he required the sacrifice of a goat every Yom Kippur. He required Abraham to sacrifice his son and then flipped it for a ram. This God required that an atonement sin every year that you bring. He couldn't just say, you know what, every year I need everybody to just pray for forgiveness, ask for forgiveness, and truly mean it in their heart, since he truly knows their heart according to your book. But no, instead, you got to bring animals to be sacrificed. Which animals was the money for most of those people during that time frame. That was how they made that was their money. So you got to bring animals for the sacrifice. You have, for other things, you have to bring wheats and barleys and drinks and all this kind of stuff. And it had to be sacrificed in the tent of meetings, or at the door of the tent of meeting, splashing blood all over the damn place, right? This God has consistently. They say it every, even though it's talking about taking care of the Levites. Will a man rob God? Yea, he has robbed me. Bring all ye tithes to the storehouse. This God of the Bible requires you to bring him animals and sacrifice them. What did Noah do at the end of the flood? He took one of every clean animal and he sacrificed that animal. Do you know how big of a damn barbecue that would have been? This God requires you to bring him sustenance, because the mentality of the people who wrote this book believe that these gods required sustenance. They needed substance. Just because people have changed it today to try to make it mean something else does not invalidate the fact that the origin of the idea of all these animal sacrifices is to provide substance, and they believe that their God ate the ashes of the good meats, the good brisket. No. And even your Jesus character, in order for this God to forgive man of his sins, to find salvation, did he just say, all you got to do is believe in the teachings of Jesus that I'm teaching you, that you are to love your neighbor as you love yourself, and all these other things, just turn the other cheeks and all this, follow the laws and be obedient to the law? Nope. That wasn't the thing. That's not the trick. Human sacrifice. Gotta have some blood. Gotta have all the meats. Your God requires, your God needs blood to survive. He needs blood to do his works. Like if there was a real true God, then all that God would say, and it wouldn't be a he anyway, but all that God would say is, and it wouldn't be a she, so don't nobody go there either, is that, hey, you know what? Y'all forgive him. Y'all forgive him. Y'all good. I know what's in your heart. I know you didn't really mean to SA that person. You didn't mean to steal. You didn't mean to lie. You know, I know that's not the true you. You was put in a messed up situation, but just try to do better. Just try to do better, right? And the more that's all I need you to do is try. It's just like the same way that I did with my children. I don't need you to win. I just need you to try. I don't need you to be the best perfect child. I just need you to try. I don't need you to, I know you're not going to always be respectful, but I need you to try to be respectful as much as you possibly can. Not your God, not the God of the Bible. I heard a Christian guy ask for a virgin sacrifice in one part of the Bible. Is that true? In a sense, yes. You're not going to hear this taught in churches the way that it should be taught. I cannot remember the names. I know that it is in Judges, and I know somebody else is going to remember the name when I tell the story. But there's a story in Judges where a man says that, hey, they were having a battle. They was in a war, and he was like, if you hand over my enemies to me, the first thing that comes out the door of my house, I will sacrifice to you. And the first thing, and when he won, and then so God said, okay, he let him win the battle. And when the man came home, the first thing that came out of the door of his house, which is a weird statement in itself, but the first thing that came out of the door of his house was his virgin daughter. And his virgin daughter, then he was all distressed, and his daughter was like, it's okay, but can I go hang out with the girls in the woods for a minute? And then when they came, after they hung out in the woods for a minute, he sacrificed his daughter. My understanding that's Japheth, where that name. Randall's saying Joshua. Okay, God makes people born to suffer the power and everything. He passes by, and a man who had been blind with birth, and his disciple asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parent? Oh, that's in John, so I know it's not the story I was talking about. Right, and Jesus answered, it was neither the man nor this man has sinned or his parents, was so that the works of God might be displayed. So God made this man blind so that people can see his works, so that Jesus can come and make the man see. I don't think it wasn't Joshua, because this is in Judges, and Joshua is dead by the time we get to Judges. Now, I think the man wanted to offer his daughter because, I mean, maybe he lived in his house with goats and shit, and goats came out his front door. Who knows? But I would think that the first thing that's going to come out the door, like when I was traveling and I would go away for a while, when I get home, the first thing that come out the front door is either the wife or the kids. It was never, it's never going to be a damn goat. Lot wanted to offer his virgin daughters. Lot wanted to offer his virgin daughters, but the angels was like, nah, don't worry about it. And then in the Judges version of the Lot story, the man offered a concubine, but he had already been sleeping with the concubine, so she wasn't a virgin. But there was another story in Judges. Okay, it was how do I say that name? Japheth? Whatever, y'all know the name. Jephthaah. That name. But yeah, so that would be this guy. If he's omniscient, He would have known that the first thing that's going to run out that man's door is his virgin daughter. You would think he would have said, "Nah, don't be making any pledges and all that sorts of things. Don't do that, because you don't know what's going to run through your door." Now, they will teach. They try to teach that the man never sacrificed his daughter, and they would try to. I've heard some pastors try to use that story to say how you should never barter with God. You should never make these pledges with God or test God that way, because you don't know which way it's going to go. Right? So the man, they make it like the man sinned because he made this pledge that he would sacrifice whatever it is. That is like the most popular way growing up that I heard that being taught rather. I did hear one pastor teach it, and he was talking about you got to be a man of your word. You make a promise to God and God fulfills it. Whatever you promise God, you better keep it. So I haven't read that story in a while. That might be a good video to do today. When he made the pledge, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. So he knew full well what was going on. If the Spirit of the Lord came upon him to sacrifice and MDK his daughter. And imagine what suffering this man went through. The fact that you got to, you won the battle, but now you got to sacrifice your daughter. How much suffering did this man go through? I'm going to tell you right now, I can believe in a God all day long. And then if I make a pledge to this God and the first thing that runs through my door, comes out my door is my daughter, guess what I'm not doing anymore? I'm not believing in this God. I'm not worshiping this God. I'm like, oh, hell no. I won that battle because of great strategy and the will of my troops. I am going to flip that script like a mug, because there ain't no way in hell I would ever accept the belief in a God that set me up to sacrifice my daughter. That's not happening. That's not happening. And maybe he did like Hurricane is saying. God loves putting evil spirits on people like he did Pharaoh when he hardened Pharaoh's heart. But there ain't no way. It's not happening. I'll be damned. I ain't sacrificing my daughter for none of these deities. I could sit here right now and say, oh, God of the flying spaghetti monster on Saturn. Your noodles stretch out forward. Let the Parmesan wheel descend upon me and shave off the spirit of the Parmesan, so that I can create the philosopher's stone and touch it to base metals, and it becomes gold. By you doing this, I will do whatever you ask of me. And if the flying spaghetti monster on Saturn allows for me to create the philosopher's stone and touch it to base metals, they return gold, and I now become an incredibly rich man. And then he appears to me and say that, oh, you got to sacrifice your children. I'm going to tell the spaghetti monster from Saturn to kick rocks. I'm about to change my belief. I'm about to follow, what's my man on TikTok? I'm about to follow Klamadroff and get my gleep right, because there ain't nowhere in hell. Right. And then this guy, Hurricane, said after seeing God kill 40 kids with she-bears, I'm out. How much suffering did those 42 young men go through? How much suffering did their families in the village go through when Elijah did that? How much suffering did the priests who supposedly were consumed by fire? Now, you would think that this deity would have said, okay, Baal didn't drop his fire, I dropped my fire. Now y'all see that I dropped my fire. So Jezebel and all your priests, y'all need to convert over to worship Yahweh. Y'all need to worship Yahweh now. Okay, so I've demonstrated that I am God. So, or I'm more powerful than your God. So I need y'all to worship me. Instead of gaining more congregants, instead of gaining the queen of Israel, as a congregant, who then would spread the message No, he burns it. He burns up all the priests. He kills them all. Make that make sense. If his goal is that he wants all people to come unto him, as he says, why would he go ahead and kill the priests of Baal when he could have converted them into his own and then have more congregants? Truly insulate himself into Israel, the northern kingdom of Israel at that time frame. Does that not make more sense? You see how, like, if we was writing the Bible today, it would be much more humane. See, this is how why that pastor was. That's how they trick you on that. He said that Japheth, who is said to had nothing to do, is said. I'm going to go back and I'm going to read that, study that, and break it down, and I'm going to do a video about that today. But the fact that, and they say it doesn't say that she died. If he promised this God that I'm going to sacrifice, blood sacrifice, anything, the first thing that comes through my door for thanking you for me winning this battle. Come on, man. Come on. It doesn't fit with your morality today that this God would allow for the sacrifice of a young girl. And so you have to change the meaning of the story to make it fit your morality of today. If a person who believes in the Bible just realize that simple thing, just that simple thing, they will realize just how immoral this God is and how much suffering this God causes, creates, and loves. Because when you have to change the meaning of something to fit your morality today, then you're saying that the original morality of this writing is unfit, is unnecessary, is immoral. Then you would have to stop worshiping and have to stop following, because you know the root of it. And it's like y'all planted a damn apple tree, and now y'all saying that those aren't apples that are coming off the tree. Those are oranges. What are you talking about? I know that's it. But the seed, the root, is apple tree, and y'all trying to get oranges. Y'all trying to make it into oranges. You trying to tell me I'm looking at the damn tree? I see it's an apple tree. Y'all trying to tell me that's an orange? It's not a damn orange. It's an apple tree. So I'm gonna do a bit because I'm about to get off here. Because I got a business proposal I got to finish today. Well, I got to revamp today. So I ain't gonna be on here for 3 hours. But I'm gonna go over. I will do a separate video for Judges 11 and break it down, because that's where the story is. Matter of fact, let me write it down, because I know. You know, when you get you get busy and you're like, oh, what was that I was supposed to go over today? So with that being said, and since my cigar has been going for the last 30 minutes, y'all know what that means. We done. A couple of housekeeping things. One, reserve your room for our meetup that we're having October 31st through November 2nd here in San Antonio. All you gotta do is reserve your room. You don't have to pay for your room up front. You'll be good to go. But I look forward to seeing you guys. Look, I already know. I know the end of the story. I just didn't want to say it, and I ain't telling y'all TikTokers what the end of the story is. When we get to there. So sign up October 31st. We're having a meetup here in San Antonio. The only thing that you have to pay for is your transportation to get here, your hotel room. There's 2 free meals that are given to you at the hotel. The link is in the description of the TikTok not TikTok, in the Facebook and YouTube version of this video. For the TikTokers, it's at Coach Renz, RENZ 33 is where you can find it. You can click on the link. We're going to hold another webinar. I'm gonna make a video about that today, and so you guys can sign up for the webinar that we're gonna have at towards the end of this month. I got to do it before I go out of town. So I know some of you guys enjoy those deep dives, those 3-hour deep dives into one subject matter, breaking it down on a scholastic level. So we're gonna have one of those this month. We didn't have one last month. We're gonna have one this month. So I look forward to that as well. And hey, you guys have been great. We go live every Monday. For those who are new, we go live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. We live usually last for about 2.5, sometimes 3 hours. I know some people be on live for like 15. I just one girl, she does like 15-hour live. She did a 24-hour live once. I'm like, God damn, that's crazy. I don't really talk about Islam that much, only when it pertains to what we are talking about as far as Christianity and deconstructing Christianity. But Islam is just as bad pseudo as the rest of the religions, as Christianity as well. So I don't even really deal with it. So y'all have a great day. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Share the videos that I'm going to post today and watch them. Good journey, good vibrations.